like notify like an ats tag does.
How do you do that again? How do you link?
You have to have the developer mode on your Discord client, then you copy the ID and add a hashtag in front of it. I think it's been a while since I've done that.
I can do that, but I can't. Just if you look in the main chat, the HackSecret, it just puts a hashtag in the ID.
I think you have to include some brackets too. Let me look it up.
We give it a few more minutes.
Yeah, just put those on each side.
Lovely, cool, done. Going to tag a few channels to make sure that people are trickling in. Cool beans. Is this being recorded already, or shall I put Craig Bot on?
It's being recorded already, so it's being streamed to Binance and DoraHacks' YouTube.
Nice.
We can kick it off in like a minute. All right, just gonna get started here, and I'll let you take it over, Oliver. So welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining today's HackSecret workshop about legal and compliance for privacy. We've been running workshops for HackSecret 2024 all month long with DoraHacks. We've been running workshops at Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, so stay tuned for all these workshops. And they all get posted as well to DoraHacks' YouTube. So if you can't stay for the whole thing, know that it is being streamed and will be posted to their YouTube. We're very excited to have Oliver here today. And Oliver, I will let you take it away. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. And welcome to the HackSecret workshop hosted by Gov.DAO and Secret Network. The focus today is on legal compliance and privacy. My name is Oliver. I'm the founder of Gov.DAO and Gov.DAO Advisory. Gov.DAO's primary mission is to build better governance, primarily by building various DAO platforms for specific use cases. We're here today to discuss legal compliance and privacy in the blockchain and crypto space. But what does that mean? Well, we're going to be looking at privacy as a service and virtual asset service providers. And why? Because as probably you're all aware or not aware, as it may be, there are numerous laws and regulations in place which govern certain activities being undertaken in the blockchain and crypto space. So I'm here to take you through what those laws and regulations look like, how you guys can be compliant with those laws and regulations, and looking at various solutions that are available in the market, thanks to Secret Network, to keep things private, shall we say. So what are the laws that are applicable in general to the blockchain and crypto space? I break it down pretty much into 3 categories, which is anti-money laundering laws, securities laws, and various data protection laws. For AML, those are the laws which we're looking at in terms of having to do your KYC and KYB processes on your platforms and decentralized applications. For the securities laws, we're thinking about tokens and equity and the issuance of those tokens and whether they're utilities or securities. And then for data protection, obviously, we're looking at how we can secure our users' data on the platform and to protect their interaction with the platform itself. So why me, you may ask? I'm a developer. I'm running a project. I'm thinking, you know, I'm decentralized, or I'm doing this and different things. You know, I don't have to be regulated. Well, I'm here to basically say that, you know, whether you're a DEX, a SEX, you're doing a launch pad, you're a wallet, you're a token issuer, it's very likely that laws and regulations may apply to your activities. So, know the law. Know what laws apply to the activities that you want to undertake. This is important because if you don't know what the law is, then you won't be able to ensure your compliance with your operations. So, as I mentioned, we've got the 3 categories. We've got the anti-money laundering category, the securities category, and then the data protection category. For the purpose of this this workshop, I'm mostly going to be focusing on laws and regulations in Europe, and also a little bit of the laws that are applicable in the US. So for AML, the big thing in this respect is the FATF, which stands for the Financial Action Task Force, issued a recommendation in October 2019, which basically brought into the scope of its recommendations for protecting against anti-money laundering, or money laundering, sorry, brought into scope all kind of crypto, blockchain services that are being provided, whether it's centralized or decentralized. We also have in Europe the Anti-Money Laundering Directive number 6. In the US, we've got the Bank Secrecy Act and FINRA rules, which apply to the necessary conduct for financial institutions and institutions providing services. On the securities level, well, this is the big thing that always comes up. You know, I want to do a token launch. I want to issue a token. How do I do that compliantly, and how do I do so? Well, this is why we put it under securities laws. And in Europe, we've got the forthcoming market and crypto asset regulations coming out. And we also have the MiFID directive as well, which is applicable to securities. In the US, we've got the famous Securities Act 1938 and the infamous Howey test, which is always in general applied to token issuances. Then for data protection, we've got the general data protection regulations in Europe. And then I've selected the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act because that is the one that specifically relates to financial services and their conduct in terms of protecting users' data, etc. Sorry, my apologies. So, as a lawyer of 10 years practice, it is always my advice to the projects I work with to think compliance first, and to think about how you can build that into your platform and the operations of your platform. It's important, of course, compliance, because you want to avoid getting fines, or the eye of the regulator, coming down on you and questioning what you're doing in terms of your activities. So what does this mean, compliance first? Well, it means looking at the services you're providing. Are you an exchange? Are you a wallet? Are you a launch pad? Are you going to be issuing a token? Thinking about what that means in the context of the laws. And in general, whether you're centralized or decentralized, there's going to be some in-scope activities, which means that you may have to look at getting either registered or licensed, or at a minimum having to at least do things in a compliant and best practice way. So if anti-money laundering, for example, in general now, following the Financial Action Task Force recommendations, the majority of jurisdictions, including the Caribbean jurisdictions, Europe, UK, Singapore, even the Seychelles, for example, are introduced or have introduced a new digital asset law, which incorporates the Financial Action Task Force recommendations, which means that if you set up and establish a legal entity there, which is for your operations of your platform, it's likely or very possible that you'll have to, under those laws, register as something called a virtual asset service provider, VASP. What does this mean? Well, essentially it means that you will be compliant with the AML laws in those jurisdictions, and it means that you have to conduct or incorporate certain KYC and KYB policies for your platform itself. So take, for example, you set up in, let's say, Lithuania. If you register as a VASP there, it means that you're going to have to carefully monitor who's using your platform. You're going to have to collect certain KYC data, which could be, depending on the type or amount of the transaction, possibly a passport, proof of address, source of funds, etc. And this is difficult, you know, for a centralized exchange, less so, but for a decentralized exchange, I would say it's difficult to do that, particularly if people are connecting with self-hosted wallets such as MetaMask, etc. It could also mean in some jurisdictions that you have to get a license. So, for example, Bahamas, if you're operating there as a virtual asset service provider, you'll have to get a license rather than registration. And these are costly, time-consuming, very, very, very complex to comply with. And often it's a question of, do we have to do this? And what does it mean? Because in my opinion, and in the advice that I provide to various projects, just getting established and registered in one jurisdiction doesn't automatically grant you the right to provide services somewhere else. So say you're registered as a VASP in the BVI, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to just go directly to provide services in Europe. It's like you'll have to then get registered in a European member state, for example. Moving on to securities. Well, how to be compliant with securities? And as I said, you know, it's one of the biggest questions for all projects, because all projects mostly want to issue a token of some sort. And usually this comes down to whether your token is a utility or a security. And the difficulty with securities and being compliant with securities laws is that actually, again, you have to be compliant in the jurisdictions in which you sell your tokens. So in the US, you have to be compliant with the Securities Act 1938. In the UK, they have their own rules regarding doing token issuances. And the same for Europe, which is, as I said, about to bring in the market and crypto asset regulations, which will mean that there are certain procedures you have to follow in order to be able to issue a token. Historically, that's why most projects build their token around it being a utility for their platform, which meant that in some jurisdictions that would take you out of being classified as a security. As you may or may not know, that's incredibly difficult in the US, and the likelihood is that the regulator there, the SEC, will take a view that your token is a security. What a lot of people don't know is that there are certain exemptions available in these jurisdictions, which means that you can actually conduct what's called, well, let's use the US language, an unregistered sale of securities. But that's limited, right? So that's limited in the respect of the fact that you can only really sell to accredited investors, and you can't conduct a public sale without actually being registered itself. And then also suffering the potential problem that once you're classifying yourself as a security, then it may be difficult to succeed in getting listed on various exchanges. The goal is to be utility. Utilities are core to the blockchain ethos and philosophy. However, that is not always the case, unfortunately. But to be compliant, look at the laws and what the laws say, and look at how you can compliantly issue your token wherever you want to do that, in which jurisdictions. Then on the GDPR side, the data protection side, compliance, in my opinion, means ensuring that you've got the correct policies and security procedures and functions on your platform to ensure that when people are providing their data, whether that's their personal ID or email or other such data, ensuring that you've got the sufficient technology to protect and secure that data, however it may be submitted and held by your platform. So, what do we have as solutions to help projects be compliant? Well, mentioned privacy as a service, and we'll come to that in a moment. Implementing certain user restrictions and blocks is also incredibly key. So, a huge part of AML laws and regulations is ensuring that you are not having users who potentially use it or wanting to use your platform to launder money or to to use it for some other prohibited purpose. So ensuring that you build your platform to allow for certain IP addresses or users to be blocked is super important. And this goes for not just operations of your platform, but also, for example, if you want to conduct a token sale or say you're operating a launchpad, it's really important to ensure that you're conducting KYC at the point of entry to use the platform, or to kind of basically block certain people from participating in purchasing any token issuances. One thing that is very key, as I mentioned before, is to seek a registration or license if it's deemed necessary, following advisory that you may have received from council to be licensed as a virtual asset service provider, or to ensure that whatever jurisdiction you're operating in, you've got the authorization to be able to do that. The last option is to be sufficiently decentralized. Now, this is something that is core to Gov.DAO's philosophy in helping our projects to build in a way which is true to the crypto blockchain ethos, which is to be decentralized. And this is important because I'll take you back to the Financial Action Task Force recommendations. They deal with various characteristics which would either bring a project in scope of those recommendations or bring it out of scope of those recommendations. And those characteristics can range from, how much is one entity controlling the platform of smart contracts? Is there some remuneration that one entity is taking from the platform? So say it's a DEX, is there an entity taking fees, transaction fees from any trading? Those are kind of characteristics for me that a project is centralized and would mean that it would have to be registered or licensed. So thinking and building in a way which means that you can be sufficiently decentralized or truly decentralized is also a solution to being able to be compliant with the laws and regulations applicable to your activities. Privacy as a service. So we're here with Secret Network today. And key to the future of Secret Network is building privacy as a service. I'm not a tech guy myself, but I do know that this is an awesome step forward, because essentially it means that if you're building the Secret Network, you can ensure that you can ensure compliance with these various laws, and specifically actually with data protection and AML laws, because you can keep your user data secret and their activity secret, but you can, using the technology available, ensure that you are collecting the data you need to collect to be compliant with these laws and regulations. Thank you so much, and I'll open the floor for any questions. Or maybe I'll ask a question, actually. Is anybody in the room building a decentralized application or already running an application? Give me your thumbs up.
I have a question, Ollie. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Cheers. Yeah, so Ollie, how did DAOs play into all this, and what are the steps that DAOs can take to make sure that they're not falling foul of any of these regulations while still maintaining a degree of privacy for the members and the users of the product?
That's a great question, and I think there are two sides to look at here. So the first side is what does it mean to be a DAO, and how are you structured, and does that DAO have a token, or did it issue a token? And on the other side, it's what are the operations, or what are the services being provided by the DAO itself? So as we all know, digital autonomous organizations were, hyped up in, from 2021 or slightly before, as a way to at least in some parts, prove that the platform or application was actually decentralized, which was considered at the time to be sufficient enough to take it outside of the scope of various laws and regulations applicable to blockchain and crypto projects. But as we've learned over time, that's not necessarily the case. And certainly because there was one huge legal issue with DAOs, and that if there wasn't a legal wrapper, basically a legal entity wrapping around that DAO, then it exposed it to certain other risks, legal risks, and the main one being that essentially there was no liability protection for the members of the DAO, and that has been to some extent solved by the availability of DAO LLCs, Wyoming, Delaware, Marshall Islands, and now in Abu Dhabi as well. But funnily enough, that comes with another problem, which is that if you set up a DAO LLC and have that as a legal wrapper for your DAO, that may mean or may be considered as one entity that is in control or sufficiently in control of the platform, application, whatever it may be, and therefore may itself therefore have to be licensed or registered under these various laws which are applicable. Then on the other side, whether you're a DAO or not a DAO, you still have to look at the operations and activities you're undertaking and what does your platform do, because that may also be a licensable activity itself. Is your question, Squilla?
Nice, thank you. And what are the different types of DAOs that this most applies to? Maybe we could spend some time there.
Well, I think it doesn't matter, as I said, if you're a DAO or not a DAO. It really matters on the type of activity you're undertaking, whether or not that is a licensable activity itself. Because, okay, so yeah, fine. Let me try and be more specific then to answer your question. So if I'm a DAO and I'm a DAO operating a decentralized exchange, or I'm a DAO operating a launchpad, that is potentially a licensable activity depending on the jurisdictions in which you're providing the service. However, if you're a DAO, which say is like a non-profit, which is for a community or some sort of investment club, then the treatment will be slightly different. So yes, as I said, it really depends on the activity that the DAO is doing.
Nice, thank you.
Is anyone here building? Is anyone here building an app and using the the secret network tech to build in privacy as a service? We've got guests on here. I'd love to hear about what you're building and seeing how you know, what I've mentioned here in terms of laws and regulations might be applicable to you. I can see you guys furiously typing away there. I mean, I do think that the privacy as a service is really the top solution here to enable the objectives of applications building on secret network to keep true to its main use case of protecting users' data and transaction history, for example, but still being able to then ensure compliance by being able to collect that data, KYC data, to be compliant with any laws or regulations that may be applicable to the services provided. Another question is, has anyone here actually looked into registered as a virtual asset service provider?
One person typing whose mic isn't working.
I think it certainly feels like a lot of projects are, not dealing with this issue at the moment. They're kind of waiting to see what actually, if anything, actually comes of it. From my perspective, anyway.
Dealing with it yet? Yeah, I feel like this is the kind of talk people are going to come back to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think I take the view that if you're a startup project, it really is expensive and time-consuming to seek to be registered in all of the jurisdictions in which you're intending to provide your services. It is a strategy to, well, in the first moment, at least, maybe get registered in one jurisdiction, but to see and whether or not you're going to be successful, and obviously if you take off, then you're going to have a better budget towards ensuring your compliance with the various laws and regulations applicable, and to be able to find out where your biggest market is, and say that's in Europe, great, let's seek to get registered there if it's necessary. But if it's not, then what's the point?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed, sir.
Thank you so much for the legal stuff. I tend not so much to look into it because of probably where I come from. People are not at that level whereby they're really into it, but becoming an issue of late. The government needs taxes. First of all, I wanted to say, I'm building a cross-chain privacy voting DApp, and it's really amazing because I was doing something yesterday, and someone told me about they have an issue with how their data is being passed across the blockchain. This was a Web2 developer. We're trying to work together on the project. Then I showed him how to encrypt the payloads, and that's what I'm working on. And when it comes to legal, it's more of like a gray area on our side, but I'm not sure when I'm deploying a DApp on the blockchain, for example, someone accesses it in, let's say, America or Europe. Do I have, I've seen you said some things there about the SEC commission, anybody making beyond those money and those rules. Do they apply to me, or now it's just up to the person working on my DApp, the other side? Yeah, that was my question. And thank you so much for this. I'd never put so much thought into it, but it looks serious.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm I'm very sorry, I actually missed what the service was that you're providing. But in general, it really comes down to the classification of service.
I put you up to speed with my DApp because it's something I'm actively working on. It's a very simple DApp whereby users can create polls, kind of, and they can choose how they want the voting situations to be carried out by their whitelist or whichever way. There are so many ways to work on it, and eventually I'm looking at having a fully fledged app that can work in like a big election, for example, like holding like a general election in a country, because where we are right now, we are like in what we call a prisoner's dilemma in terms of choosing leaders. Nobody's trusting the other, nobody's trusting the system. Like the last time we used a software system that was really, really accurate, foolproof, but still it was messed around because of the same issue of having a central server. And one person, it was alleged, tampered with it. So it's really, it's becoming an issue, and really, it's an attractive thing to so many people I've talked to around. So basically, that's what I'm trying to put up together. So I decided to start with something simple, but I have like a binary sort of like poll, and that's what I'm working on. At this point, I'm actually doing the encryption of everything that is sensitive, including even the results. They can only be accessed by if a certain the wallet that only voted. And probably this is just another something out. I'll reach out to Sean later, just how to prove that your data is really, really indeed encrypted to a normal user who's just accessing something on a browser. How can you assure them like this data is really encrypted? Is it just by saying I did with secret, or there's another way whereby you can users can confidently and rest assured that they're working with a system that is end-to-end sort of encrypted, and nobody else other than the viewing keys owner and the involved parties can access that data. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I must say that is an incredible mission that you have there, and I wish you all the success. And Gov.DAO itself being about building better governance, I truly support what you're doing, and if there's anything we can do to assist you, please let us know. But just thinking about what laws and regulations may be applicable to your use case, well, I think clearly it's data protection. I don't think the laws around AML particularly apply, because it doesn't sound like you're intending to provide any sort of financial service like a DEX or wallet or so on and so forth. Maybe you want to issue a token, but that's a conversation for another time. So looking at the data protection laws and how secure your encryption really is, and actually how you intend to use that data, we're going to have to look at, and obviously being cognizant of the fact that data protection is different depending on the jurisdiction where it's originating from, and there are different rules and regulations in terms of how you should protect that data. So those are the key laws and regulations you should focus on, really, to ensure your compliance.
Yes, and I just sent a message in the chat. It would be brilliant to get a call in and see what you've built. We're also building a cross-chain DAO tooling over in Gov.DAO as well. So yeah, it would be awesome to see if we can collaborate on some of the governance side of that. If anybody else wants to connect with us over at Gov.DAO as well, then you can find our Twitter, which I'm going to post up here in a second, and LinkedIn as well. If you have an inquiry related to your project, then you can shoot myself or Oliver a message on Telegram. I'm at BrainGovDAO and Oliver is at OliverGovDAO, and we'll be happy to help you figure out this stuff. So there is our Twitter. Drop us a message on there if you prefer. And coming up is LinkedIn as well.
I'm just checking out the chat here to see some of the comments, to see if I can add my thoughts. I see here from Aronson that there's a social media app being built at the moment. I think social media is really interesting actually when it comes to data protection, because those are obviously, of course, the main kind of applications where a lot of personal data could potentially be collected. So that's a huge focus, and I would recommend that anybody building a social media type platform would be guided by those who've already been at the forefront of it. I hate to say the name Facebook, but Facebook has pretty solid data protection policies and the treatment, all around the treatment of someone's data and what can be done with it. And those are good guidelines to follow. And of course, they're always at the front of any changes or amendments to those laws as well, as they happen.
Maybe a question just to finish up then, Ollie. Where do you see the privacy blockchain space going in the next couple of years? Do you think there'll be like a washout of projects that aren't up to speed with their compliance, or is there any big changes that we're expecting in regulation that might affect a lot of the sector?
Yeah, very, very good question. And of course, we're here with Secret Network, but personally, in my opinion, Secret Network is thinking of it the right way in terms of the objective to have privacy as a service built on top, and interoperability with EVM as well is absolutely the way forward, because there will always be a use case and a need to protect data and to protect users in whatever activities they're undertaking. But I don't think there is going to be much wriggle room for applications to not be compliant with various AML laws. So privacy as a service and the tech around that really solves the issue, which is we need to collect this data to be compliant, but we want to be able to keep our users happy in terms of protecting their data. That is the solution. So I think that projects, whether they're centralized or decentralized, whether they're built on secret or not built on secret, really have to all consider very carefully how they should be compliant with the applicable laws and regulations. But to actually, embrace that, because I think what's really important is that, and I hope this is the effect of it, that now we have these more kind of stringent rules and regulations around KYC and collection, that it will open up the market and hopefully onboard more users to the blockchain space. And can you just repeat the second part of your question, Bryn? I do apologize, I forgot.
No worries. Yeah, no, I was asking, are there any major changes coming up that developers and product managers and those kind of people should watch out for with regards to privacy tools for blockchain?
Well, I think actually one of the major updates that's coming is, in addition to the market and crypto asset regulations in Europe, there is also something called the travel rule regulation, which was meant to already be effective, but it seems to be delayed. I think maybe it will happen this year, or maybe it will be next year. But what that will mean is that platforms will have to basically collect data either side of the sending transaction for anything that's any funds that are sent above 1,000 euros or dollars, which is huge. So it's a question of how do we comply with that, and how do we need to build our platform to be able to facilitate that, and can we scale it, and is it possible? But that's really something that's going to affect a lot of projects, whether they're centralized or decentralized, is how they be compliant with that.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Oliver. I think I can't see any more questions, so I think we can wrap it up there. Sean, if you want to do the honors.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming out today to this legal and compliance for privacy workshop. Thank you, Skrilla and Oliver, for being here today and telling us more about GOV.DAO. For anyone who missed part of this workshop, it will be posted to DoraHacks YouTube channel. So see that for more, and we will also make sure to post it in the HackSecret main channel. And as you continue to build out your dApps and have questions about legal and compliance in the future, GOV.DAO and Oliver are great resources to come back to. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, guys. Pleasure. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Good luck in the hackathon, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon.